Hello, and welcome to the in-class video for the Battle of Alesia simulation. The historical background is as follows. The Romans assisted Gallic tribes in pushing out Germanic tribes that were encroaching on their territory. This led to positive connections beginning to develop. For instance, they began to trade, and the Gauls in particular found out that Roman wine was quite good. But Romans were clearly gaining in power and acting like they were in charge. And many Gauls did not like that. But perhaps they overreacted when, in 58 BC, they rose up and massacred Roman civilians in the area. Thus began the Gallic Rising. It would be followed by a Roman invasion led by Julius Caesar. You should now break into pairs. One student will play Julius Caesar, representing the Romans, and one student will play Vercingetorix, representing the Gauls. If you have a group of 3 people, they can also play. One person would just play Caesar and would play 2 games with 2 other students playing Vercingetorix. So that student would play 1 game against Vercingetorix while at the same time playing another game against the other Vercingetorix. There are several mechanics that you need to understand in order to be able to play this game. There will be multiple battle checks. During these battle checks, Gauls will roll 6 6-sided dice, and Romans will roll 4 10-sided dice. You can use either physical dice or a dice rolling app if your instructor allows you to do so. Note that if you're using a physical 10-sided dice, a 0 is not a 0, it is a 10. Right? And high numbers are good in this game. So if you're the Romans, remember, if you roll a 0, it's not a 0, it's a 10. Each dice with a result of at least 5 counts as a success. Whoever has the most successes in a battle check wins and gains a victory counter. In the case of a tie, roll again. Right? If the Gauls get 4 successes and the Romans have 4 successes, they should both roll again. The success board helps you to organize this and is important to this game. Here's an example of a Roman player using the success board. Right? The Roman player rolled a 3, a 6, an 8, and remember, that's not a 0, that's a 10. The 3 is a failure, so it goes to the left. The 10, the 8, and the 6 are all successes. They go on the right. That means the Roman has 3 successes. Here is an example of a Gaul player using a success board. The Gaul player rolled a 3, a 2, a 1, a 2, and 2 5s. That gives that player 4 failures and 2 successes. If we compare this, the Roman had 3 successes, the Gauls had 2. That means the Roman wins the battle check. Please note that there are times when the instructor should be ready to pause the video, typically after every event. It's good to be close to the computer and be able to pause it. One area, of course, where the instructor will need to pause the video is when asking questions. Another reason why you need a board is so that you can place a victory counter on what you think is the correct answer. Right? It's important to do this to commit to an answer before the answer is given. In addition, remember, you gain victory counters whenever you win a battle check. There are other things that can also lead to you winning victory counters. For now, though, be prepared. I'm going to ask a question. The instructor should pause the video after I ask the question. Students need to decide what their answer will be and mark it on their success board. And after that, the instructor can unpause the video and you will hear the answer. So our first question is, which of the following statements best describes the Jewish revolt? A, the Romans were defeated, leading to the establishment of a new Jewish kingdom. B, the Romans crushed the revolt but allowed worship at the temple to continue in order to avoid future revolts. C, the Romans crushed the revolt and rededicated the temple to the worship of Jupiter. Or D, the Romans crushed the revolt and destroyed the temple. And the correct answer is D, the Romans crushed the revolt and destroyed the temple. This video will walk you through the battle, and at certain times you'll be able to take actions to see if you can impact the outcome of the battle. Caesar will defeat Vercingetorix at the Battle of Engine. There he will destroy Vercingetorix's cavalry. Cavalry played a very important role during this time period. It was the eyes of the army. If you didn't have cavalry, you wouldn't be able to see where the enemy was, and you could easily walk into an ambush. Therefore, Vercingetorix, having been defeated and lost that very important cavalry, retreated into the hill fortress of Alesia. The Romans were known as being great engineers, so not only did they surround the fortress of Alesia, they built a wall around it. However, the Romans were also afraid that they might be attacked from behind by other Gaulish forces. Therefore, the Romans built a second wall behind them, surrounding the town. So there was the town, and then a wall, and then the Romans, and then another wall. So the Romans were protected by two walls and basically lived between the two walls that they built. This happens occasionally in ancient history, but is very rare. During this game, you will draw cards. These cards can have an immediate effect or an effect later. For example, the card on the left, Romans lose 1 victory counter because of the loss of a leader, would be something you do immediately. The Roman reinforcements card on the right, however, will impact things during a battle check. In this case, you would gain 1 additional success. If you have any questions, ask your instructor for how to resolve any conflict. Now that you understand what the cards are, please draw a card now. As mentioned before, the Romans are going to try and build a double set of walls around the fortress of Alesia. The Gauls will attempt to disrupt the building of those walls. So please have a battle check. Remember, during a battle check, that means there will now be a battle check. Please roll your dice and see who has the most successes, remembering that in the case of a tie, you roll again. If the Romans win, they manage to build 2 strong walls. If the Gauls win, they destroy a lot of the Roman work and supplies, weakening the walls. Whoever has the most successes wins and gains a victory counter. And here is an artist's rendition of what the construction of the walls might have looked like. And here's what one part of the walls would have looked like from the side. Question: if you get it right, gain a victory counter. Why was the Roman Empire split into 2? A, in order to defend the empire against the rise of Islam. B, for better administration. C, in order to prevent feuding between the Optimates and the Populari. Or D, the empress gave birth to twins, so when they became adults, they were each given half. And the correct answer is B, for better administration. Please draw a card. The Gauls will now attempt to sneak out messengers seeking reinforcements. Have a battle check. Remember, who has the most successes wins. In case of a tie, roll again. Whoever has the most successes wins and gains a victory counter. If the Romans win, they manage to stop the messengers. If the Gauls win, the messengers make it through. Question: if you get it right, gain a victory counter. Which of the following was not a problem faced by the Roman Empire? Question: if you get it right, gain a victory counter. Which of the following was not a problem faced by the Roman Empire? A, they had a lot of territory to defend. B, the wealthy were able to avoid paying taxes. C, they were devastated by an early form of the bubonic plague. C, they were devastated by an early form of the bubonic plague. Or D, the empire was under pressure from Germanic peoples known as barbarians. And the correct answer is C. So please draw a card. Now the Romans and the Gauls both need food for their armies. They need to send out foraging parties to obtain food. Have a battle check. Whoever has the most successes wins and gains a victory counter. If the Romans win, they manage to obtain food. If the Gauls win, they manage to obtain food. What event marked the fall of the Western Roman Empire? A. The suicide of the last emperor, Romulus Augustus, following his defeat in battle by a rival claimant to the throne. B. The suicide of the last emperor, Romulus Augustus, following his defeat in battle by the barbarians. C. The burning of Rome and murder of the last emperor, Romulus Augustus. Or D. The sacking of Rome and abdication of the last emperor, Romulus Augustus. And the correct answer was D. Gauls, I'm sorry to say, you have very little food left. So you have a choice to make, Vercingetorix. You can either A, make all the elderly people, the women and children, leave the fort, or you can lose one victory counter and let them stay in the fort and use food that they could be used. Vercingetorix, I'm sorry to say that your Gauls have very little food. There are many older people, women, and children living in the fort who are also eating food which your army could eat. Do you expel them? In which case they'll have to leave the fort, but you'll have more food for your army, or do you let them stay and continue to eat that food? If you let them stay, it will cost you one victory counter. Please make your choice. Caesar, you also have a choice that you must make. You see a group of Gauls, of women and children and old people, coming through the no man's land between your walls and the town. You have to make the same choice. If you let them through, they will leave and eat food in the area that could be used to feed your army, and you'll lose one victory counter. Or you can refuse to let them move past your walls, in which case they will be stuck between your wall and the town. Please make your decision. Historically speaking, Vercingetorix did indeed expel the older people, women and children, and Caesar refused to let them go through his lines, forcing them to wander between the area of the town, the fort, and the walls. Eventually, many of them succumbed to exposure and starvation. Ancient warfare could be quite cruel. Question: which of the following statements best describes Roman family life? A. The Roman father was very powerful, but unlike the Greeks, did not have the right to abandon children. B. The Roman father was very powerful and even had the right to abandon children. C. Roman fathers had power over sons and Roman mothers over daughters. Or D. Roman fathers and mothers shared power in the family equally. And the correct answer is B. Please draw a card. Another Gallic army arrives and a coordinated attack is launched. Gallic forces under Vercingetorix in the Alesia fort are going to charge out. At the same time, the Gallic army that's arriving from behind the Romans will also attack. The Romans are in a desperate situation. Please have a battle check. Whoever has the most successes wins and gains a victory counter. If the Romans win, they're better positioned for the next fight. If the Gauls win, they are better positioned for the next fight. It is now time for the final battle. Draw a card. We have a new rule this time. You will roll regular dice and calculate your successes, and then add your number of victory counters to that number to get your final battle score. For example, if you had 3 successes and 5 victory counters, your final battle score would be 8. Whoever has the highest final battle score wins. If you tie roll regular dice, and add the number of victory counters again. Please go ahead and calculate your battle score. If Vercingetorix wins, congratulations, you have changed history. You have been able to stop the Romans from invading your country and making it a part of their empire. Historically, that is a counterfactual. In other words, it did not happen. If the Romans won, congratulations. Vercingetorix is forced to surrender, and he's taken back to Rome, taken on a parade in the city, and then strangled to death publicly. The Romans were not merciful to their enemies. But congratulations, Rome. You have added this territory, what will be known as Gaul at the time, what will become modern France, to your empire. And this is what actually happened. It can be helpful now to reflect on the game and answer some questions. Did you win or lose? Why do you think you had that result? What did you learn from this simulation? How are the Romans and Gauls different in terms of the dice they rolled? Why was there that difference?